If you're exhausted from trying to stay calm while everything keeps escalating, this is probably the part no one explained to you, because the way most parents respond to control behaviors actually reinforce them. I'm Christine. Let's talk about what parents usually do without realizing what it's teaching. As adults, we want to teach our children, and we usually do that by explaining. Most kids would describe that as lecturing, and it's not helpful. It often feels like conflict, defensiveness, and a lack of connection to our kids, and it escalates into verbal power struggles. So why is this a problem? A dysregulated brain cannot process logic. When we are dysregulated, what we might call fight, flight, or freeze, the part of the brain responsible for logic, empathy, long-term planning, and future thinking is not communicating with the part of the brain that is focused on safety. A simple way to understand this is imagining someone slamming on the brakes to avoid an accident. In that moment, they are not calmly thinking through options, they're reacting to survive. This is exactly what's happening when our children become dysregulated. They're panicking and trying to survive in a situation that we consider neutral. A simple statement like, "Hey, did you clean the bathroom?" can register as a threat. Once they feel threatened, they respond from fight, flight, or freeze. They're not processing logically. The next problem with trying to be logical is that words become fuel. The child begins using your words as a tool to regain control and feel safe. They take what you say and flip it back on you. When I think of this, I think of myself standing at the top of a hill while a child is trying to climb up towards control. The gravel keeps sliding up under their feet, so they scramble harder and harder. Your words become the gravel they're grabbing for. This only works if we keep talking. Once the adult stops talking, the fuel disappears. Another way logic fails is if the child is not listening. They're scanning for leverage. This is where they start pointing out your behavior. You never make your bed. You never do chores. I'm treated like a servant around here. Guilt is often the strategy in this case. If they're using it, they're probably pretty good at it, and they probably have you figured out. Again, the solution is to stop talking. You're speaking to their thinking brain, but they're operating from survival. There are 4 specific things adults often do that invite escalation: over-explaining, negotiating under pressure, matching intensity, and trying to be fair in the moment. Fairness during dysregulation feels like danger to a child who needs control. Let me show you the difference. What parents often say is something like, "We've talked about this, you know better." A regulated response sounds like, "We can talk about this when we both feel calm." Let me repeat those so we can both really feel the difference. "We've talked about this, you know better." "We can talk about this when we both feel calm." You're not ignoring the behavior, you're postponing the conversation until learning is actually possible. This works because you're not filling the child with more words that feel like an attack. You're taking accountability for your own emotional state without blaming them. You are not being permissive because you're going to follow up later. This response is also important because it removes blame. Children are used to adults deciding that the child is the problem. Even those parents, we often have our own work to do. How are we part of it? We misunderstand the child. We miss the message behind their behavior. We judge, and we allow their behavior to regulate or dysregulate our emotions. When you say, "We can talk about this when we both feel calm," you're acknowledging that you have regulation work to do too. That signals safety. It shows self-reflection. It tells the child you're not blaming them for everything. We'll go deeper into why this matters in later videos, but this is where modeling comes in. We must model the behavior we want to see. Children learn far more from what we do than from what we tell them. Now here's where parents panic. If I don't engage, am I letting them win? In the next video, I show you how to hold boundaries without creating a new control battle. And this part changes everything. Watch that next. This is where real progress starts.